Hey there, Maricopa. This is Maria Poor. I am one of the Cultural Affairs and Arts Committee members for the City of Maricopa. And here today we have one of our local artists creating one of the beautiful signal box portraits. I'm here today with artist Veronica Lichtenstein, who created this beautiful mural. Veronica, what does this represent for you?
This is, when I was thinking about Maricopa and the kind of box I would want to paint, I just started to think about like what's one of the main activities that like people in my neighborhood do, and me and my daughter go bike riding all the time, especially around Halloween and Christmas time, to look at all the displays and to enjoy the weather during that season. So I wanted to make a mural of a joyful bike ride, and that's what it is. It's a blissful joy ride. This is part of our Super Bloom, and this is actually this street on Honeycutt, which was just like a month ago, was all blown up with these yellow trees and the green pieces out there. So it's just one of my favorites because it reminds me of the amount of fun times we had together going bike riding every night.
And this piece directly represents you and your family life and your family together. Describe that for us.
Absolutely. Like we love going on bike rides and going around the neighborhood. We love getting picnics. We'll pick up Chipotle and then we'll just, find a spot under a tree and just hang out. And it's one of those things where she'll want to do it every night and she gets to talk about the end of her day and open up, and it's just a really fun event for us to do. And I think as I've been doing this piece and bike riders have come by, it's been fun to see families together see this and feel like they're being captured from Maricopa.
What does it mean to you to have this gorgeous public artwork up in your city?
Just the world. I'm so excited. I'm excited to have seeing the 9 other pieces that are going to be out there, just to see what everybody has and everybody's unique fingerprint and art, and seeing what they're going to come up with. I'm just excited to see more of this throughout the city because I think it just really brings out the community to life.
It does. Thank you so much for being a part of our public art initiative here in the city of Maricopa. Thank you so much for gifting our community with your talents. It's beautiful and something that people can really enjoy and last a really long time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey Maricopa, I'm Quinn Knoll, the Communications and Cultural Services Director. We're here today taking another look at the bridge that's going across the Santa Rosa Wash. This is part of the Sonoran Desert Parkway project, and I'm joined here by Carrie Osborne, the CIP project manager. Carrie, as you've been overseeing this, it seems like we were here just a few days ago or a couple weeks ago, but man, in a short amount of time, there's been a lot of changes here. Tell us about this stage that we're at.
Sure, Quinn. We've made quite a bit of progress. Since the last time we were here, we were working on the abutments and the center pier for the bridge, but now we've even started to install the girders. We've got about half of them in place right now. We have 20 of them to install total. They each weigh about 90,000 pounds, so it takes 2 cranes to lift them and to put them into proper position. After we get those installed by this weekend, then we'll begin to do the formwork and build the deck, which is what people will actually drive across. That'll be our next step for it. So we're well underway to completing the bridge over the wash.
Now, people that live in Santa Rosa Springs, they know the importance of this, but for the rest of the city, they might not realize how important this is, that normally and traditionally when it's rained, it's been a problem for people that lived in this neighborhood.
Yeah, anytime the wash flows with any velocity at all, we have to close the gates and shut the road down, which means that there's only one way in and out, and that's across the railroad tracks. So if a train is blocking the tracks, it makes it difficult, for the emergency vehicles to get in and out. So having a bridge over the wash means that there'll be 24-hour, constant access into the subdivision for those people that live in Santa Rosa Springs.
So after the girders are installed, next it's time to hit the deck, right?
Next time is to hit the deck and finish up the bridge.
If they haven't, people haven't seen in a little bit, we've got some images of the progress on the parkway itself. Tell us a little bit about what's happening over there.
Most all the curb and gutter now has been formed and placed along both lanes, eastbound and westbound, for the 2-mile stretch of the parkway. Beginning May 8th, we'll start paving on the eastbound lanes, and that should take probably about a month or so to finish the paving work on it. And we're still on track to get the project opened up to the public by the end of the summer.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Kerry, for giving us that quick update. Maricopa, hopefully that keeps you informed. Stay tuned to the communications channels and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to get the latest information. We'll talk to you soon.
Welcome back to the program where the questions are answers and the answers don't stop. It's Maricopa's favorite game show, Permit or Not. I'm your host, Luis Vila, and I'd like to remind our viewers today that if you have any questions regarding any of the categories today, please leave them in the comments below. Now let's take a look at the board. The categories today are city services, do I need a permit for that? What's being developed? City events, library, and road. Bob, why don't you lead things off for us?
Thank you, Luis. I'll take a, do I need a permit for that, for 200?
I would like to pour a slab of concrete in my backyard. Do I need a permit for that?
What is no?
That is correct. Slabs or pavers in your backyard are up to the owner's discretion. However, any work being done in the front yard, you'll need to contact your HOA.
I'll take permits for 600.
My pool needs to be drained. Do I need a permit for that?
Yes. I mean, what is yes? What is no?
That is correct. Pro tip, if you're looking to drain the water in your pool, you'll find 2 black water conduits in the front of your home. One of them leads directly to sewage. Plug it in and you're ready to begin draining. However, you'll need to contact Global Water first, as the pool water needs to be of a specific pH level before you can begin the draining. So that's all the time we have for today. Be sure to tune in next time to Permit or Not, and until then, feel free to visit www.maricopa-az.gov for all of your questions regarding city events, permits, and more. Or leave us a comment below and we'll be sure to get back to you. A lot of people have been wondering just what's in store for this big plot of land. And after the overpass opened, it's become a popular topic of discussion for many investors. Well, we're happy to share that preliminary designs have been submitted for the new Maricopa Station and is slated for mixed-use development featuring space for a variety of businesses and homes.
Right now, Maricopa businesses miss out on millions of dollars in retail sales as customers shop outside the city. And this development is just another important piece of the puzzle to keep those dollars here, benefiting our businesses.
This is the first set of potential developments that we hope to see more to come within this area, because this is just a small portion of the totality of about 40 acres, which is only 27 acres that's being proposed. There's still
Doesn't that bring us down? No.
You gonna put that on your jacket?
I mean, we want to push some of them and they work for us.
They're an advisory council.
Well,
And that's what it said, advisory council. Senior advisory council. No power, they just recommend it. No. No. Advisory council.
well, advisory, yes.
The advisory.
And that can go in. Want to have this hierarchy.
An advisory council is like an advisory board. It gives it a little more muscle.
It's so quiet. Thank you for being here this evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting of September 19th. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order, and I'd like to invite up Brother Doug Ford from the Elders Quorum, President of the Pecana Park Ward. And he will be giving us our invocation, and then Councilmember Learman will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please rise if you're able.
Our kind, gracious Father in heaven, we, a few of thy children and members of this good community, come to thee in expression of thanksgiving and to seek thy blessings. Father, we're grateful for this good counsel and pray blessings upon them, of clarity of mind, strength of body. We are grateful for their commitment and dedication to those who call this city, the city of Maricopa, home. We pray blessings upon the women, the men, and the children of this great city. Wilt thou bless each of us with an increase in love for one another, an increase in tolerance, and unity with each other. We are grateful for those that serve in the police and fire departments and pray blessings upon them of health and safety. We are grateful for their service. Father, we recognize thy hand in all things and say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Ford, and thank you, Councilmember Learman. That'll take us to the roll call, please, Vanessa.
Councilmember Gettle?
Present.
Councilmember Learman? Here. Councilmember Manfredi? Here. Councilmember Marsh?
Here.
Councilmember Wade? Here. Vice Mayor Vidiello? Here. Mayor Smith?
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Vanessa. That'll take us to the proclamations, acknowledgements, awards, and presentations, of which we have one tonight. It's item 3.1, a proclamation on domestic violence. I'll come forward. Thank you. Never mind. We don't have one. I'm ahead of the game. All right, so at this point, we don't have any acknowledgements. So that takes us to the report from the mayor. Council members, vice mayor, anything that you'd like to offer up tonight? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Just a quick announcement. We have or I have, hosting another community coalition meeting. This will be taking place this Thursday evening, 6 o'clock in Global Water. We've invited several of our interested parties here in our city, some of our stakeholders, those of us who have nonprofits or belong to religious organizations that want to tackle and have a conversation around our teen population and how we can better support them here in our city, as well as our seniors. And we started this a couple of months ago. We've been meeting quarterly, and we've had a great conversation so far. So this Thursday night will be focused on some solutions that we might be able to partner with, and I'm very excited to hear what we're going to bring to the table on Thursday night. So thank you for those of you here in the audience that will be participating that Thursday, and it is open to the public. If you feel free, if you'd like to come join the conversation, we'd love to have more voices in that. So thank you very much, Mayor. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much,
6 p.m.
Councilmember Gatto.
6 p.m. at Global Water.
Councilmember Marsh.
On September 14th, the University of Arizona presented their vision and plan for a major research and education center to be located on their land just north of Maricopa's city center, north of here. This is a 20-plus year project that will bring many jobs and much growth and excitement to the city and to Pinal County. If you want to see the presentation, go to YouTube and search for Pinal County Board of Supervisors Work Session Meeting, September 14th. That's Pinal County Board of Supervisors Work Session Meeting, September 14th. This is the most exciting announcement I've heard in Maricopa's entire history, and Christian Price is a big part of this. On September 12th, I participated in the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority Board meeting. It was pointed out in that meeting that the Central Arizona project will be involved in the 2027 renegotiations of the Colorado River water rights. They'll be negotiating with the federal government and the 7 lower basin states, including California. Now, in the current water rights agreement, California has the highest priority for Colorado River water, and Arizona has the lowest priority. Arizona will be pushing for a more fair priority system, hopefully to include equal rights among the 7 states. This will benefit the farmers in our area and benefit the city of Maricopa by reducing the agricultural pumping of groundwater. Mitch Bashevsky from Central Arizona Project announced that due to plentiful rainfall in the Colorado River watershed, the Colorado River will be reduced from a Tier 2A shortfall to a Tier 1 shortfall. That means that next year, 800,000 acre-feet of water will be delivered to Arizona, and that's good news. On September 14th, Nancy Rich and I attended the Chamber of Commerce breakfast at Global Water. The guest speaker was Robert Miguel, the Ak-Chin chairman. The chairman discussed the Ak-Chin's history and strongly expressed his feelings that Ak-Chin and Maricopa are one community based on a long history of working together, and that's good news. He also reminded us that in December, Ak-Chin will be presenting their Masik Tas event. It's a big festival, and all of Maricopa is invited to attend this free event. Their talent lineup will be announced soon, so check that out. On September 15th, the Senior Lunch and Learn featured former Vice Mayor Peg Chapados with a very informative hour of presentations from about a dozen Maricopa nonprofits and service providers. I want to thank Peg Chapados for pulling this together. At that event, I announced that due to inflation, we're increasing the door prizes at Lunch and Learn from $25 gift certificates to $50 gift certificates. So come to Lunch and Learn for lunch, for education, and for door prizes. Someone pointed out that the odds of winning at Lunch and Learn are better than at Harrah's. I want to thank Dr. John and May for staging their 16th annual Kids Day on September 16th at Maricopa Wells Middle School. It was crazy busy all day and was incredibly well attended by families and vendors and service providers and most of City Council. I'm looking forward to this annual event continuing for many years to come. And finally, I want to remind you all that this coming Friday, the Pinal Partnership is hosting a panel discussion on local water solutions in Pinal County. Our own Global Water VP of Water Resources, Jake Lenderking, will be on the panel. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Marsh. Anyone else like to speak? Vice Mayor?
Yes, I also want to thank Dr. John and May for putting on the 16th annual Kids Day. What a program to be put together, and what a huge program. The place was packed, and it's just awesome to see the people of Maricopa get together and bring their kids for a 100% free day. So thank you, May and John. I don't know if you're in here, but I want to thank you personally. Also, I'd like to thank our staff. I'm sure you people might have heard of the Wild West performance that's going to be happening October 13th, 14th, and 15th. Anybody? Anybody? That's it? Well, then our advertisers need to get out there a little better, because everybody's hand should be up for this. This is our 20th anniversary party, and I got to tell you something. They have done an unbelievable job along with SLE. Our staff has gone out and picked up some great people to come to this city and put on an historical event that will eventually, year after year, hopefully, become a regular event year after year. That's how the Ostrich Festival got started, and that's how the Wild West is going to get started year after year. So I want to thank SLE, and I want to thank our staff for doing what an unbelievable job. They put this together in 3 or 4 months. Thank you for your hard work and continuing to bring more people to this city, artists that is, and I can't wait to see this pulled off. So thank you, staff. Thank you guys for what you do, because they don't have any idea how hard it is to pull in talent to come to a small city of, the largest city in Pinal County, I'm sorry. So thank you guys. I appreciate, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, staff, for everything that you do.
Thank you. Any additional council members? All right, perfect. I just wanted to comment on Kids Day. It is the 16th year, so they are just 4 years shy of our 20 years as a city. They've been involved from the very beginning, and only COVID has brought them down. If you want to see how an entire school system can be filled with kids and parents and families and volunteers and nonprofits and the sheriff's office, the police department, pony rides, anything you want for your kids, any information you need from a nonprofit, you can get it at Kids Day. And so all of them are to be commended, including Dr. John and May, but all of the nonprofits, all of the entities that helped. This is one of, in my opinion, the most fascinating events for kids within our city, and it's packed every year, 16 years. So thank you. So that brings us to the end of the mayor's message and takes us to the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. I am going to take a few minutes tonight, and thank you for the segue, Vice Mayor. I want to carry on your message. You know, in February 23, in our futures planning is when we introduced the concept, and you gave direction for us to move forward for this celebration. And while there are literally hundreds of staff and volunteers involved, I do want to recognize some who are really burning the midnight oil, and I do mean literally in some cases, and that is Quinn, Travis, Nick, Kelly, Brenda, Luis, Monica, Abel, Vinny, and Leslie, most of which are not here tonight, but we will make sure that they are aware of it. And I want to just provide a few highlights. First, we're only 3.5 weeks away. Second, we anticipate, hope and pray, that the Sonoran Desert Parkway will be open to accommodate additional traffic flow. We're pretty confident that it will be, and that will be critical to making sure we don't have any major traffic issues. I do want to remind everyone those traffic issues will be at 10 o'clock at night, so it won't impact very many people. I do want to mention that our partner and talent manager, SLE, has informed us that in our inaugural event, our ticket pre-sales are significantly outpacing those of other major cities with more established events, and specifically sales on passes that include admission for all 3 days of the event are uncommonly strong. Sounds like a premier city to me. It goes on to say we have exceeded our sponsorship budget by over 30% already and anticipate additional sponsorships coming in. We have actually reduced planned expenditures by as much as 30%. We enjoyed a surge in pre-event ticket sales with our initial talent announcement, followed by another bounce with our most recent talent announcement. Our talent lineup is in part a reason for our strong pre-event sales, and we anticipate a final announcement of the balance of our talent lineup in the next few days or early next week. Stay tuned. Vendor registration is open now until September 29th. There are more applications right now than we have space to accommodate, which is good. However, SME is still accepting and evaluating those spaces, so vendors are encouraged to apply even now. We may even find some more space as we go forward. Our carnival provider continues to add additional game and food vendors due to our early success and talent pool. This is significant as these attractions are challenging to secure at this time due to the state fair occurring at the same time. Other communities, larger communities who host similar events are calling us to understand our success in securing a loaded talent lineup and understanding pre-sale interest from both inside and outside of the community. They plan to attend our event, they'll have to buy tickets, and see what we can learn, what they can learn. We too have learned from them. Neighboring communities have joined us in advertising our events, and in some cases, neighboring chambers of commerce are also joining in advertising our events. So in addition to print and social media platforms, drivers, TV watchers, and radio listeners all across the valley are hearing about our event through a wide-ranging advertising campaign. And then adjacent landowners have granted permission to use their undeveloped lands for parking. This will allow us to get up to 850 cars additionally right next to the park. And they embrace the event and look forward to future years when they will have additional restaurants, hotels, and shops that will benefit from such events. So I thought you might just like to hear that, and we have a lot of work ahead of us in the next 3 weeks. Well, those 8 people I named at least do. But we think it'll be a great event, and we appreciate your support and the community's support. And I think this will let people know that we are one of the premier cities in the state of Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Appreciate those words and all of that information. It's very important. So that'll take us now to the call to the public. I do have one speaker card, and then others are welcome to approach the podium. Let me read the procedures. The procedure to follow if you address the council, our council requests that you express your ideas in 3 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks and derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone, whether in the audience or not. The mayor will limit discussion whenever they deem such an appropriate action to proper conduct of the meeting. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the council may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the council, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on the future agenda. However, the members of council shall not discuss and take legal action on any matters during the open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed and for discussion and legal action. And just as a reminder, friendly reminder, I know that our attorney, Dennis Fitzgibbons, always helps out in repointing people to the council, but when you come forward, I thought I can help a little by reminding you, face the council and not the public, because you are approaching and speaking to the council. So just a friendly reminder. Okay, so that takes us to the first agenda item, the first speaker card, and it is one that was submitted online, so I'm hoping that he's here. Willard Gorgeous. Yay, thank you. Please come forward.
Good evening, Council. My name is Willard Gorgeous, resident of Maricopa for almost a decade now. And I appreciate the time to share a concern with all of you. So the recovery community is lacking in areas to have meetings, and all of you understand that how that impacts public safety, how that impacts supporting the community regardless of the age group. So I wanted to use this time, which will be a lot less than 3 minutes, to kind of give you all a heads up. I don't like being blindsided by things, so I wanted to just share with all of you. My hopes are to put together a presentation to present to all of you, and my understanding is I need 2 council members to sponsor it or support it. So I will be reaching out to each of you. I will have more information to share. I can answer questions should you have them, but I just wanted to say this is becoming a concern that the city faces, and all of you understand if we're not supporting the recovery community, they're on our roads possibly drinking or using drugs and getting into accidents, which only increases costs. So in an effort to support public safety, I hope that you will be at least understanding when I call and request time. So that is all I have. Again, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the time. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kargas. That's the end of the speaker cards. Would anyone else like to approach the podium and speak to the council?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Peg Chapados. I just want to acknowledge something that Councilmember Marsh mentioned. I want to give a shout out to the staff over at the Community Senior Center for their help in organizing the Lunch and Learn. Also to the members of the Age Friendly Committee. They do a stellar job. Everybody had a great time, and it was just a pleasure to work with them. Tonight, I want to remind you about 2 events that are coming up. This coming Saturday, the Friends of the Library will hold a mini book sale at the library from 10 to 1. Please stop by and support the library. We, in turn, take our proceeds and then donate that to programs and services that the library offers. Our big one is coming up on Saturday, September 30th, and that will be the 2nd annual Maricopa Friends of the Arts fundraiser. This year, our focus is on young artisans, and I'm very pleased to say that we have 10 young artisans from area schools, junior and high schools, that will be in a showcase for that event. Tickets are still available, 6 to 8 at Global Water Resources, so come on down. We've got auctions, we've got entertainment, we've got a lot of fun things going on, and we hope to see you there to support the arts. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Oh, come forward, please. State your name, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Rita Alleman, and myself and Brother Donald Love, we are representative of Maricopa Community AME Church. The reason that we're here today is that we are here to openly invite the mayor's office, the council members, and general public to the celebration and appreciation of our dear pastor, Reverend Arnold Jackson. Reverend Arnold Jackson has been pastoring Mount Moriah Community Church for over 13 years here in Maricopa. He's also been instrumental in us building our brand new church located right here on Gunsmoke Road. And we've just finished our building right prior to COVID. And now because of his leadership, we are now expanding into phase 2. We think that it's time as a community that we come together not only as a congregation, but also to invite all of you to come and help us appreciate him. We are hosting an event October the 21st at Harris Action from 3 to 7 p.m. This is a formal affair. This is in view what we call an appreciation for all that he has done and continue to do for the community. We're asking that everyone here that would like to attend, or if you would like to present him, say, a resolution, an honorarium, a certificate, an award, whatever, that you please be present. Let us know if you'd like to do so. We will put you on program. This man has gone way beyond. He has encouraged all of us in the community to not only get involved, to volunteer, to vote, to do all the things that we need to in this community. And we, as a member of the Maricopa Community Church, has definitely gone out of our way to help Maricopa as a city grow. We think it's time to show him some appreciation for 13 plus years as working here and now continue plummeting us forward. We extend to you an open invitation. The tickets are $65 each, or a table to be purchased for a seating of 8 for $520. We thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity. We invite you. We please would like for all of you to come and attend, and we welcome you with open arms.
I'd just like to say that we have some flyers. I don't know if we can leave them or not, or pass them out.
Or we can give them to you. We can bring them up there.
You can bring them over to the, yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, the date again is October the 21st from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Harris Action Ballroom.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to approach the
And
podium?
we have another meeting we got to go to, so we'll have to leave.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. We do allow people to leave. It's not one of those you can come in, but you can't get out. Anyone else like to approach the podium? Yes, please, sir, come forward. State your name.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Braun. I've been here since 2005. I want to, first of all, thank the city for the wonderful jobs they're doing with the senior center and the programs you are providing for us. As I'm becoming older, I'm finding I'm used to, I can use these a lot more. But I am getting concerned about one thing, is the sidewalks in the city of Maricopa are relatively narrow in places. And cars, for some reason, are seeming to want to either park on the sidewalk or in their driveway where they're blocking the sidewalk. This is making it very difficult for seniors to get around, especially with an assisted device to walk with. I just want to ask, is there anything that can be done with at least cleaning up the sidewalk area? I'm from Chicago. I'm used to a 6-foot sidewalk. These little 3-foot sidewalks, they're a little bit tougher to negotiate, especially as I go up in age. And one last thing is I do like walking a lot, but I'm finding as I'm walking the Rancho Circle, the bicyclists are using the sidewalk, and especially now the motorized scooters. These scooters can up to 19 miles an hour, and yet they're on the sidewalk with us. And when I was a kid in the 50s, I was taught motorized vehicles and sidewalks do not go together. But apparently things have changed. Again, I'm just asking if the city can address anything on this issue. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. City Manager Horst, who? Chief will grab you and give you some information. Thank you very much. All right, anyone else like to approach the podium? All right, seeing none, we'll close the call to the public. That'll take us to the consent agenda. And I'll ask council, do you have any concerns, questions? Seeing none, I would like to just temporarily pull item 7.1. That is Josh, if Josh could come forward and speak to 7.1. Specifically what 7.3. Specifically what I'm looking for is section 1, paragraph 3, for public information. What's gonna happen? Oh, I got redirected to Josh. Okay, well, we'll take Ben then. Okay. You were in shock, weren't you, Ben?
We roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Agenda item 7.3 is a discussion on, or an action item to approve an intergovernmental agreement with ADOT to begin construction on the widening of State Route 347. This is north of Smith-Inky. If you remember when we took over jurisdiction of 347 and it became officially John Wayne Parkway, we did not take that northernmost section from just a little bit north of Smith-Inky to the city limits. And the reason for that was because this project was occurring. And so ADOT is administering this project and is ready to kickstart that project. They'll be starting it next month. We're reviewing public releases today, this week. They're setting up a project website to provide information to the public as well. All of those things are ongoing, and we're really excited to get the project started.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Councilmember?
This is the widening of the SR 347 in city limits, right?
Correct. Only.
This is nothing outside of city limits.
I would say only to the city limits, but because of engineering standards, you have to taper the roadway down after that. So just a little bit north of the city limits, it tapers back down to the 2 lanes. That's correct.
Just wanted to make sure with the press and the audience, I didn't want to hear that we're expanding the entire 347 tomorrow. That's
correct.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ben. Any additional questions for Ben? I just felt like it was important that the public be aware of what this item included
Ben?
as their scope of work.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Could you give us a little bit of a timeline on the starting of this? You said pretty soon here.
Yeah, so they're working on the kickoff date exactly. It'll be somewhere in October, it looks like. Project will go through summer of next year. And so what we'll see during that timeline is they'll add curb and gutter on the northbound lanes, add obviously the additional lane, really just kind of make the improvements to make it kind of similar to the south side, where the south side already has those 3 lanes from the city limits heading southbound. And so it'll kind of mirror that on the north side and prepare for the next phase. And again, you know, as staff, and certainly you're as aware as a member of the council, that everyone within this organization in this city is uniquely focused on State Route 347 and getting to the next phase that Councilmember Manfredi mentions. We certainly want to see additional funding there. We want to see additional widening as it goes all the way up to I-10 at the Queen Creek interchange. And so we actively work on that every day, and we'll get there. But it's one step at a time. This is that first step for us, so we're excited to get it kick-started.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ben.
Hey, Ben, are you going to have a little platform off on the right-hand side so when I'm out there, I don't get hit?
You know, election season's coming up.
Just kidding.
That's your issue, right?
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? Councilmember Wade?
You know, the mayor mentions a lot of opportunities that we have money available for doing some of the work that we need to do for the 347 and I-10 and what have you, the overpasses. I just want to make sure that the community is aware that we're doing the work and we're getting the money, but we need $315 million. So I just wanted to let you know that we don't have $315 million now, and we have more than we did before, but it's a group effort to make sure that we get that done. So next time you have a thought to think about why it hasn't been done yet, just wonder, well, do they have $315 million yet?
And for clarification, is for the beyond the city limits up to I-10
right.
for the media. That's what that's for. Okay, Councilmember Manfredi.
Leaving town in the morning, are we going to make sure that they're not doing the construction from 6 to 9 or so in the morning, right?
Yeah, and thank you, Councilmember Medford. We've worked with ADOT throughout this project to find ways to ensure that our traveling public is as inconvenienced as little as possible. And so what we've worked with them is to make sure that 2 lanes are remaining open, particularly in that morning rush hour. As we get to the final stages of the project where we have some resurfacing and some of that work, there may be some overnight work that's required, but we're going to do everything we can to work with ADOT and make sure that we are not inconveniencing that traveling public. We know what would happen if there were only 1 lane in rush hour northbound heading into Phoenix, and that is not something we want to deal with.
Yeah, because I'm giving out your phone number.
Right, yeah. I've got yours in my cell phone too, so yeah. Transfer all
My
calls.
words of wisdom are for everyone is patience, patience, patience. Because this is an introduction to what's going to happen when we do widen the extensive part of State Route 347. It's going to take patience on everybody's part. All right, any additional comments or questions on this particular topic? All right, thank you very much, Ben. Given that, we have items 7.1 to 7.5. Does council have any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So motion.
So moved by Councilmember Gatto. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Marsh. Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That consent agenda, those consent agenda items pass. Thank you very much. That takes us to the regular agenda. The first item up is agenda item 8.1, and Jennifer has a presentation. I do have one speaker card.
Mayor and council members, tonight we're here to bring back the city facility rental fee policy that we all discussed on July 25th. And so what we have tonight, and I'll go over for you, is the decisions that you made on the changes to the policy on July 25th. So we'll go through a reminder of what those are and where those changes were made. And then we'll look at the comparisons that we've made to other cities to make sure that we're in line with what other cities are doing, and we'll call it a oranges to apples comparison, and we'll explain that as we get into it. And then we'll conclude with where we're at with the rates and what we think makes sense with this policy. And as we go through this, want to explain that this is a point in time tonight that we're looking at this. Once we implement these changes, we're going to be able to collect a lot more data and bring it back to you in 6 months and a year and say, here's where we're at, here's what we found out. This particular use is being used a lot, and we recommend bringing the price down in this area, or vice versa. And so we'll just have a lot more information to share there, as well as including the staff information on, what the costs are associated with having those rooms open at different times and for different uses. So we'll go through it, and we'll open up to questions from you as well. So first is the overall rates and the percentages. So as we talked about on the July 25th work session, the recommendation was for a base rate. That would be what local businesses pay, and so that's the starting point for where we'd be. And then the resident and nonprofit rate would be 35% off that base rate, and then non-resident rate would be 200%, so double of what that base rate is. And there are the definitions of what each of those are, and that's all in the policy as well, and so we can refer back to that if we need to check further into any of those definitions. Next, these are the changes that were discussed and that we made, and I put in there so you can follow along if you have the policy in front of you, the number and letter associated with where that is in the policy. So the first one, the discussion was city facilities available for rent shall generally be made available to be booked no less than 1 year in advance of any booking date. So we changed that from 6 months to 1 year. We have removed 2AI, if a rental is booked on a recurring basis, discounted rate should not be used more than once per week unless it is for an athletic field. So on this one, and there are other stipulations in the policy that on how often you can rent it and you can only rent if it's on a recurring basis up to a month before. But this one, you can use that discounted rate each time you rent it in that recurring basis. 2A, 3I, renters may use the discounted rate at one event per fiscal year, July 1 through June 30th, while charging or requiring donations for entry. So this is, again, if a nonprofit wanted to do a fundraiser, they could do that fundraiser where they're charging for entry once a year, and then the rest of that would have to be open to the general public if they were hosting a big event or something. 2D, departments overseeing the rental of city facilities may designate rooms or facilities that may be reserved for the residents of Maricopa without an assessed fee. So today there are 3 rooms at the library that don't have an assessed fee. There are, or it might be 4 rooms, the study rooms, and then there's the, I think it's the Palo Verde room at the back of the library that also doesn't have a fee associated with it and has kind of a different booking process. So those rooms are free currently for residents to use. So next we get to how, where we started and where we got to. So when we went through this, we didn't have a base rate. So currently today, there is a resident rate and a non-resident rate. So if we're gonna have the 3 different categories, we had to establish where we'll get with a base rate. So we compared ourselves to other cities, and at the beginning I said oranges to apples comparison, and it's, when you look at it, there are so many differences in how it's set up. Some rooms require a 4-hour minimum at some cities, or a 2-hour minimum, or a 30-minute or a 2-hour setup fee. There are all kinds of, and different sizes of rooms and different rates at different facilities for those different sizes rooms. So it was difficult. We did the best we could, and we'll show you what those charts look like when we get to the next slide. So the goal of this is, that we entered all of this into was to have a discount for residents and nonprofits. That's kind of what started this project, to make sure that our rooms are affordable, particularly for the residents and nonprofits. So with that in mind, in our comparison to the other cities, what we did is we added 15% to the current resident rate to establish the base rate. And so that means that the residents and nonprofits will still be getting a significant decrease on their rates when we go into this. So I'll first show you the other cities we compared to, and then I'll show you what those rates look like. So this is comparing the outside facilities. So you can see on the majority of these, if you looked at the small Ramada, baseball, softball fields, outdoor multipurpose fields, we're below in all those categories for what we'll be charging. And this is comparing what we're proposing tonight as the rates that we'll be below on. The two that we're a little off on this are the large Ramada. The other cities didn't have a large Ramada in similar size to us. So again, that's one that's a little different. And then the courts, there was one of those that they rented the courts for $3 or $5 or something like that. So that's where we got with the courts. The rest, these are our inside rooms and comparing, and you can see what cities had similar rooms that were allowed the same occupancy. So really on this, we're either right in line with the exception of the non-resident rate in Marana for a 20-person room, or we're below. And I think except for the, again, with Marana there on the 40-person room. So pretty in line with where we got. And again, with our rooms, we don't have that 2-hour or 4-hour minimum, and some of these do. So even if they wanted a room for an hour, you would still end up paying for 4 hours. So again, we did the best we could with that. And so that's how we got to the base rate. And again, what we did was add and you can see on the left-hand side, the current rental rates. And so we took that resident rate, added 15% to that, and got the base rate. And then on the right side are our new proposed rates. So if you want to take a small Ramada, for instance, that at Pecana Park, today a resident pays $15 an hour for that. A non-resident pays $20 an hour. With these proposed rates, at the base rate, it would be $17 an hour. At the new resident and nonprofit rate, it would be $11 an hour. And at the non-resident rate, it would be $34 an hour. So that breaks it down. And then these are looking at the indoor facilities. So I know we talked last time a lot about Redwood room A and B at the library. So again, today residents are paying $130 an hour for that. Non-residents $173. The new base rate would be $150. Resident nonprofit $98, and non-resident $300. So that breaks down the rates, and you have an attachment too that has some further rates. We included Lakeview Park because that'll be coming up as well. So next steps, we are required by state statute to post these rates for 60 days. So after tonight's meeting, that depending on the feedback we get, we would post the rates for 60 days and then bring back the policy and the rates for approval in December. So that's where we're at, and I open it to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Jennifer, before we do that, I would like you to stand close by, but I'd like to pull up Peg Chapados, the one speaker card for this item, and let's hear her thoughts before we go into some dialogue.
Thank you, Mayor. Peg Chapados, I would like to offer the following suggestions. First section is under your definitions. I would like to see you add the city advisory committees. I've attended all 3 committee meetings recently, and I know all 3 of us are talking about possibly doing events in the future. It would be nice if we had the capacity to go through our council liaisons to do that, but also listed specifically if it's an event that we would like to bring to the city, that we have that option. The second definition is under nonprofits. Although they're not considered 501c3s, HOAs and condo associations are nonprofits, and they are required by law to have meetings at least annually. So I'd like to see them included as one of the nonprofit groups so they can take advantage of that rate. The rates themselves, I still struggle with this. I attended the work session on July 25th, and I appreciate the comments made by council. What I'm struggling with is that we are basing everything off of the non-resident rate. 35% of already too high doesn't help us. A lot of nonprofits, we would much rather see our proceeds given back to the community to support programs and services rather than paying for room rents, especially some of the smaller groups. You heard the gentleman tonight about the recovery groups. There's a lot of informal social groups that are not nonprofits that meet on a regular basis, and it's just cost prohibitive for us to get together to talk about things that benefit our city as a whole. So I'd like to see you consider that, starting at 0 for the resident rate and build up rather than starting high and work down. There are things, if the requirement for using a space is just to use everything that's already there, the lights are on, somebody's home. So it should be minimal or nothing. I think the same thing would apply to a refundable deposit. I see that it's in here. Can anybody cite me an example of an event that we've actually allowed or that has happened that would hurt the city? I can't recall any in the 16 plus years I've been here. So I'm wondering where that even came from. The next one concerns the events within the same fiscal year. At the Futures Planning session last year, which I attended, or this year, which I attended, there was a concept brought forward that talks about the repurposing of the current police headquarters once the new police building is finished, and that would become our arts and entertainment center. You've got a lot of performance-based groups here, faith-based groups, nonprofits, people that want to just do parties. To only be able to do one fiscal year discount seems unfair. What's the downside? If we qualify and we're willing to use that facility and we meet every other requirement that you have, why can't we use it more than once? It actually discourages repeat performances, especially with faith-based and performance-based groups. Must be a benefit to the Maricopa community. I'm looking at 1A5. Maybe also add that it's in line with the mission of their organization. You have to go through that requirement with the IRS and the ACC to be recognized as a nonprofit. So as long as it meets that requirement as well, I don't see the downside. Renters cannot use multiple discounts. I think Jennifer just answered that question. Thank you. Again, if we qualify, what's wrong with repeat customers? I think it's something we need. Hard costs. Going forward, I understand capturing hard costs, but I'm also curious as to how that will be calculated. And I'd like to know if anybody can tell me what excessive demand on electricity would be. That's actually in your policy. So I don't know what that means, but in terms of balancing staff time with M&O costs, utilities, furniture repair, damages, the whole 9 yards, please make that reasonable. I think our staff has a very good perspective on what's happened so far. Are there problems? Are there groups that present more challenges than others? Have we had damages? And it depends on a lot of different circumstances. It's not a one-size-fits-all. But if you're going to pass those costs on to us, and I can give you an example. The Friends of the Arts was interested in using the library atrium for our fundraiser, which is now Global Water. To walk in the door, it cost us $400 before we did a thing. That's counterproductive to what we want to do as a fundraiser, okay? I totally understand, and I totally am in line with capturing some hard costs, but don't make them so cost prohibitive that it's too expensive to walk through the door. The space is designated without an assessed fee. I think there's also maybe some spaces at the senior center, community center that could apply here. The library ones are going to be in even more demand. The Palo Verde holds 10 people, minimum of 4. The 2 study rooms, you can maybe get a couple of people in there. And every time I go to the library, I see that they're in use. So I know I'm preaching to the choir that we need to find a balance with this policy that addresses the lack of options for space. Right now, the city is our best option for meeting space. Please don't make it cost prohibitive. Okay? The other 2 things that I would like to address is a key ingredient in making this policy reasonable, affordable, and practical is going to be the expediency in which it's executed. There is nothing more frustrated than trying to reserve a room or get an answer to something you want to do for an event to be told that person is the only one that can do that and they're out on vacation or they're out sick today. It delays the entire process, and sometimes it costs you dollars and valuable time in order to do an event. The other one is, I would like to see you address those programs and services which are currently being used in our city facilities. Grandfather them in. We have a plethora of different levels of organizations with or without structure, social, recreational, and I've heard lately from a lot of people, a lot of seniors, the 74 people that were at the Lunch and Learn on Friday, seniors need the socialization and recreation aspects in their lives. We've got a lot of people that are homebound, that can't get out, that very limited mobility. When you walk through the door at the senior center, and I've seen people walk in, trot in, wheel in, shuffle in, they light up because they're with seniors, they get that social interaction, and it's a positive outcome. So all in all, I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. I appreciate the conversations. I was, again, at that work session, and I heard a lot of you very clearly state you want to support your community. This should not be about nickels and dimes. This should not be about taxing the taxpayers that are already civic-minded, that are participating in these buildings, that support the activities in this town. The report I just heard from the city manager on the upcoming Wild West Music Fest. Those are things that make Maricopa special. We've won things in the past. We've been recognized regionally, nationally, for the things that we do and how we do that. What you guys give direction on tonight with this rental facility policy is going to set the tone for years to come. Please remember your constituents, remember the nonprofits, remember the social groups, the faith-based groups, recovery groups, and everybody else that needs spaces right now that the public sector has not supplied. Those days are coming, but we're not there yet. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. Looking forward to hearing your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chapados. All right, council, what questions, concerns, thoughts, comments do you want to make? Yes, City Manager Horst.
A couple of clarifications. With regard to the one time per year, remember we have an exclusion in there that by contract, if it's a tournament or a series of ball players or shows using the proposed art area, the contract would override these policies. So there is a venue by which we can address those issues for the appropriate purposes. And then also wanted to address the question about the committees. If the committees present programs that they want to sponsor that's approved by the city council, they have then become a city-sponsored program and they would be exempt from these fees anyway. So I just wanted to make those two clarifications.
Very good. I think those are great clarifications. Council. Yes, Vice Mayor.
Jen, so I'm looking at the resident rate that we used to have. Let's just take the Peconic multi-purpose. It was $13. Now the base rate went up to $15. How did we come about the base rate from 13 to 15?
Sure. So two ways. So that was where we used the comparison cities to kind of see where we're at. And then we added that 15%. So that made it even. So it was, we're doing the same thing to each room instead of looking at each one and tweaking it a little differently. So we looked at the comparison cities, we saw where we were at, and that we were in a lot of ways below in a lot of areas. So we added that 15% to get to the base rate to be consistent across the board.
Okay, and then my other question is, the base rate is now going to be the business rate, correct?
The local business rate, correct.
Okay, so the local business rate, which I had made comments that I believe our businesses are just as important to our residents and our nonprofits due to the fact that they're already paying taxes in this city. And I'm completely against charging businesses more money. So just based on that alone. And then the other issue I have is how did we go about picking from the base rate to go from $15, I'm just using the new base rate, and then the non-residents to $10? What kind of formula did we use? And then on that, did we just simply say it's 35%? Was that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. So we had to establish that base rate to be able to figure out the 35% off and then the 200%, yeah.
So, and then when we just go down some of these other ones, the other issue I have is, do we have numbers on how many days these rooms were used? I look at some of the rooms that when I happen to go to the gym, which unfortunately hasn't been much lately, I will admit, that it is, some of the rooms are not used very often. And to me, that an unused room is a wasted room. And maybe part of the reason is that the price of the room may be too expensive. I can't say that for a fact. But do we have numbers on all the rooms to determine whether the rates should be higher or lower or whatever the case may be on usage over the course of last year?
So that's a great question. And so we can pull up how often each room is used right now. So we can look at that and see how often they're reserved. What we don't know today is what they're reserved for. People just put in their name. So we don't know what that use is for. And so that's what I was talking about at the beginning is this will give us the opportunity because we're going to revamp our system. So when you put in that room reservation, you'll say what that use is for. And so we'll be able to pull that data and say, okay, it looks like businesses are using it a lot more, or nonprofits, or they're using it for this particular use. And so we'll be able to take that data and bring it back and, tweak as needed.
Well, I don't mind the tweaking issue. The problem I have is that over the course of last year, we should know how many times we used each individual room, regardless of what it was for. And if that room is not being used 75, 80% of the time, then I might as well keep the rates lower and have people increase, hopefully, by not raising the prices, is what I'm getting at. So that's where I'm going to stand on this, is that if we don't know the numbers, then again, obviously we'll take a vote here, but my point being is that information is important to me to make an educated decision.
Sure.
A reminder, this is for discussion only. Who else would like to speak? Yes, Councilmember Lehrman.
I just wanted to thank you and your staff for taking the time to go and do some research about other communities. I was hearing concerns that our community was charging higher rates than comparable communities. So I appreciate you bringing that information to us so we can see where we stand with other communities. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Lehrman. What additional comments? Councilmember Wade.
I just have a question in terms of when someone is using a space or renting a space and they need other things to go along with that, like chairs, tables, appliances, whatever they may have, bowls and whatever. Is there any factor into what that cost contributes to the individual?
We do, and so we didn't change those fees, so we consider those the hard costs, like what it costs staff to set up a room if they need a different setup, and so those have not changed, so we didn't include those in this, but those, we have all those already on the fee schedules that are already on the website.
They weren't changed for what reason? Why were they not taken into consideration?
So we just left the hard costs, what they actually are. So we're charging the hard costs. So, and we already have that calculated. So, for example, like table linens, we have a charge that covers us to be able to get them dry cleaned, transport them to dry cleaner, bring them back. So that's all been calculated. Same with, there's been some calculations on how much it costs to have the lights run and those different things on the ball field. So those have been done and we already have those numbers. So we're not touching those in this particular activity.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What other comments? Council members, yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to second and also add to a little bit what Vice Mayor said. As we had this conversation back in June, that was a pretty hard point too for me, is I'm not sure why we want to continue to charge our local businesses more, especially as we consider them already as some pretty significant taxpayers in our city. And so looking at that raise in rate on all of these by a good 15% in most cases, that's concerning to me still. I also said back in June, and I don't know if staff has any further data that they would be willing to share with us, is I would really like to know what the hard cost for these rooms just being open and rented is. Now, the lights are already on, AC is already running, staff is already there. So are we factoring in those into this cost? Because it sounds like all we are doing is taking the formal resident rate, raising that up, then discounting it, which was an effective 25% discount from the resident rate now to our proposed resident rate. But we're not looking at recovering any of those base costs. So if I'm looking at, for example, Pecana Park, multi-purpose room, the resident's going to pay $10. What if the hard cost of that multi-purpose is $3? Can we bring that down to $3?
Councilmember, may I jump in?
Please.
It's rare that we have someone rent a space during the course of their rental, they don't come to us say, I forgot an extension cord, I
Of
need a
course.
bulletin board, and that takes staff away from their job to do other jobs. It also, a lot of these things are after hours or before hours, and our computers are set to turn on the air conditioning and turn them off, and we have to readjust and assess for that. But speaking specifically to businesses, we have to be careful that our bricks and mortar people don't start saying, wait a minute, my competition now gets a free ride doing a business startup somewhere else. So there is a lot of things to balance when we think about these type of things. At the end of the day, the council can set whatever rate you want, but remember, it's not the city providing it, it's the taxpayer providing it. And what we provide for one, we have to provide for everyone. And at some point, if we are going to be the only purveyor of meeting space in the city, we're not going to be able to survive. And at some point, we want to encourage them to look at, building their own facilities if they're a 401c3, looking to faith-based organizations, looking to community organizations, looking to other businesses such as Global Water, that was mentioned tonight. And if we create an avenue by which is advantageous to just go to the city and let the city pay for it, we can do that, but we have to understand eventually the cost will be there. There's more wear and tear, there's more maintenance, you got to clean the carpet more often, got to clean the filters and bathrooms, restock, all those things have to be considered. And at some point, we have to either get it through the end user or we have to get it from the general taxpayer. So it's finding that balance. And I agree we don't have as good a data as we should have, but the program going forward will create that data. And I think, as one of you said before, we got to find a soft landing spot to get started and then create that data and go from there. But at the end of the day, whatever direction you wish to give us, we'll certainly do.
So Mayor, I think the city manager is making my point for me. What he describes in my mind are those hard costs. The labor of keeping the thing open, the staff time, the wear and tear in the buildings, those need to be factored in and figured out, and maybe we don't have that data as of yet. But you also mentioned, Rick, that these are already tax-paying individuals using taxpayer-funded facilities, and I really do think if we're charging more than our very basic hard costs, we're doing a little bit of a disservice to our city. You have a valid point of wanting to mitigate supply and demand and giving businesses an edge over their competitors, but I think there's other ways to do it than penalizing the rest of our residents based on these fees. So again, I would just like to make a plea that we come together with some data. Maybe it is going to take a year for us to get this figured out a little bit more dialed in. But let's get this as free to our residents and to our businesses and to our nonprofits as we can become. There's other ways we can maybe mitigate the demand side of things rather than jacking up the costs. So those are my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. Additional comments? Yes, Councilmember Lehrman.
When you were doing your research with other communities, was there a business rate? Did you notice with other communities?
Some of those had that, and Abel, I don't know if it's Abel who's back there tonight. If you can pull back up the presentation, I can flip to that and show the rates. But they had different nonprofit and resident rates, so let's see. Go back. So some of them had it, some of them didn't. So you can see in there that they did have the local business rate, and so that's us cheaper in this one, like on looking at the 25-person room, we're less than all those other cities. And again, in some of those cities, we're way less because we don't charge the 4-hour minimum or the 2-hour minimum or the 2-hour setup fee, or, some of those other things. So, yeah.
Thank you. Additional comments?
Mayor, if I might, to be a premier city also means we don't follow what other cities need to do. And while I appreciate the hard work of this chart, I don't really care. I want to see what our hard costs are and keep it as minimal to our residents as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Council, with respect, we put this data together at the request of the council.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Councilmember Manfredi.
It's important for us to know what other cities are doing at times, because you don't want to be above or way below. You want to make sure that you don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to some of the decisions we make. Now, as a premier city, of course, we want to have the best of everything, but unfortunately, we don't. In terms of the space, you know, we don't have a lot of old space we can give out to people. You know, we don't have, everything we build comes out of the ground, so everything we build costs more. But keeping the prices lower than most cities is always a good thing. I do, Ms. Chapados mentioned something about, that I've been thinking about too, is the refundable deposit stuff. I'd like to know how many times we haven't refunded a deposit. Now, is it cause and effect? Are we not having to refund a deposit because we have the deposit and people are afraid to mess with the place? You know, who knows? But that could be cost prohibitive to somebody that has to put $200 up just to rent a place for 2 hours. And then, yeah, they get it back later, but some people don't have the credit card to put $200 down. They just want to rent a room for 2 hours, you know? So I'd like to look at that a little bit, but it's not that much of a concern, but it is a concern. And then when we talked about businesses and, you know, when we printed out the business stuff here, I'd say go back, but I don't know what page it was. When we talk about like the library and the rooms in a library, Redwood and stuff, right now we're charging a business $130 to use it. So we'd be raising the rate for business, but lowering it for everybody else. So that's pretty nice, is that's going to go down. So the business rates are actually going to go up just a little bit for a lot of the stuff. It goes up for everything at the library, but the rates for the people go down. So I get a question for you, and it's a weird one. Well, not weird one. How do we know they're going to rent it for a business? Like, they just say I'm renting it for whatever. Are we in there checking them or something? Like,
So some of it will be they self-mark, and if we have concerns, you know, we have staff in there, and staff know the people who rent these rooms frequently, and so they often know what the reason is behind it and what they're doing. And so it's checking into that and asking those questions, hey, what are you using this for? And so some of it, a lot of it will be self-reporting, but when there's a question, we'll be looking into it.
so how many people, and I know it's hard for us to figure that out right now, and this is going to give us the ability to figure it out over time, because we'll have better information, and information is always important. But in my brain, I'm trying to think of why you're going to rent out the library meeting room for a personal thing, maybe a birthday or something, I guess, but I don't know how many of those happen. I have no idea. But it's mostly business that meets there, right?
No.
It's mostly personal?
Let me make share a few ideas that might help.
Yeah.
First, with regard to the deposit, you know, the deposit's there for when they accidentally put the permanent marker on the whiteboards, or when they kick a hole in the wall, or those type of things. And, you know, if you have a credit card, you know you're going to get paid, otherwise you're not sure you can. But we can look at that, and maybe there's different deposit levels. But based on what I'm hearing tonight, I'd like to ask that you recess this and give us another 30 days to go back and revisit some of the concepts you've talked about. I think there are some rooms that I think are difficult to apply across the board, the high-profile rooms. I think there are other rooms that perhaps can lower the price so that some groups can have more of an advantage, and sometimes you just need a room. You don't need the AV and all the other systems. And to be honest with you, we're never going to get a perfect program, but based on what I'm hearing, I would just ask you to give staff another 30 days, and let's bring this back and see what else we incorporate. There are some things that we're going to need some clearance on, and one of those is like HOAs. You know, does the city owe the HOA a right to use a free room? You know, that's a decision we got to make, because the HOA doesn't pay. Well, I guess they do pay taxes, but it's the people that pay the tax, not the HOA. So we just have to make a lot of decisions. But if we open the door to anything and everything, we're not going to be able to have any programming. So part of it is preserving space for our programming that we have to do. But I do think the deposits is something we can look at. I do think we can look at the use of rooms, and those high-profile rooms, there may be one thing, the lower-profile rooms are another thing. So if you would be willing to give us another 30 days to think about this and bring it back, we'd be grateful.
Makes sense. I was actually going to finish up and say, I'm okay with putting it all in place right now and figuring out in 6 months coming back and looking at it, so that we'll have some data that we can look at. But yeah, if you want to come back in 30 days.
So I'll find out if we want to recess the topic or move forward. But I just wanted to share some things. So I was the one who brought this forward as one of my projects for the Futures meeting. And the reason was the rooms are empty. And when I hear from people, I'm hearing from nonprofits, I'm hearing from residents that they want to use the rooms. And yes, residents want to use the rooms for birthday parties, for this, for that. Nonprofits want to use the rooms, but they're too expensive. So the thought of having a discounted rate for nonprofits and residents was really important to me. We talked about it at the Futures and said, yeah, let's move forward on discussion about this. So I just wanted to bring you back to where this came from and why, because the rooms are actually sitting empty. I don't want to move very fast on major changes. There's a lot we can do, a lot we can encompass, and I would like to take baby steps as we make changes and then analyze the data. I was really curious about the discussion that we had in the last work study regarding businesses. I really wanted to learn a little bit more about that, and I thought, what better place than to go to the Chamber of Commerce? So I went and I spoke to the Chamber of Commerce director, and I laid it all out for her and what the conversations have been, and asked her, because I haven't heard from businesses in regards to, I would like to use that room, but I don't get a discount. I haven't heard that. I have heard it from residents and nonprofits. And so I asked her, I laid it all out. I said, what do you think from a business perspective? And her comment was that businesses know that if they need a place to meet, they're going to budget it in, they're going to understand what the cost is, and they're going to be ready to pay that cost. But considering that, I don't want this conversation at this point, because we do have a lack of data, to be, yes, let's move forward with the new rates. What I would like to propose is that we stay with the old rates until we have the data, and that benefits businesses, and continue on with the resident and nonprofit 35% discount on those rates. And then like we said, we're going to look at it on a fiscal year, so we'll be looking at it in Q1, Q2 next year during our budget phasing. We'll have more data, more information. So my comment was to move forward with the rates, the current rates as they're identified in this chart, so that businesses are not harmed at this point, but residents and nonprofits do get the benefit of a discount. And we move forward and check that out. I don't want to wait another year before we move forward and give this discount to residents. I want to see if the rooms do fill up and how well they fill up and how well they're used, because I want them used significantly. So I would like to make a motion. I'm not motioning. Sorry, take that back. I would like to recommend that we move forward at the current rate with the 35% discount for nonprofits and residents, leaving the business rate alone, because I don't want to punish them at this point. I don't ever want to punish them, but I don't want it to be bad news for the businesses at this point when we don't have the data to support it. That would be my recommendation.
So just to clarify then, the resident rate as it stands today would become the new base rate, and then you would take 35% off that resident rate and make that the nonprofit and resident, new resident rate. Okay.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
Back pre-COVID, my HOA held meetings in the fire stations and the police substation. They have meeting rooms there. Do you have those on your chart?
Those spaces are now needed for primary purposes for the departments. They're now used for storerooms and contamination rooms and decontamination rooms and all those types of things.
Things you don't want to
They're
enter
not
into,
available.
Councilmember Marsh.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
Yes, Councilmember Learman.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the reason I was expressing gratitude for doing research and looking at other communities is not because I want to copy other communities by any means, but because I had community members bringing that question to me and saying, Why are our prices higher than other communities? Why are we being charged more? And so I think there was a belief in our community that our prices were higher than other communities. So I think there is value in that information, and again, I want to thank you for that. Not that I want to say we're going to adopt it or copy it by any means, but just so that our community members have that information.
Agreed. Okay, thank you. I agree with you entirely. I think it does give some perspective on how we, line up to other cities. Additional comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Mayor, I really do like your idea of moving forward to give that discount sooner rather than waiting a whole nother set of times. So I'm not seconding your non-motion, but I do agree.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So let's kind of get a feel from everybody. Councilmember Lehrman, you're good with that recommendation? Councilmember Marsh, yes? Councilmember Wade? Yes. Councilmember Manfredi? We want data, absolutely. And Vice Mayor Vidiello? Okay, does that give you enough direction?
Formal motion and a second and a formal vote.
I think it's only discussion only.
Oh, not discussion. Well, but we're not moving forward with other item. We don't have to go to the public with rates because we're not changing them. So the 60-day requirement's not there, is
Yeah,
it?
so what we can do is we can bring back at the next council meeting the policy for adoption, and we'll revamp it from what you've said tonight, as long as you're good with everything else in there. And then we won't have to take that 60 days. We will, however, need a little bit of time for our IT staff to build the background. They've been starting on that. They thought that they would have 60 days from next week, so we'll get them working on it as fast as they can to have the system ready for having 3 different rates. So they'll work on that. They thought they had a longer lead time, and as soon as we have that, we can implement it.
And council, if you would be willing to add your direction that we will review this annually as a part of the budget process.
Yes.
When we review all our other fees.
Perfect.
So it all fits in with the big picture.
Yeah, perfect. So to reiterate the recommendation, because Vice Mayor asked a question, so we're taking the resident rate as the base rate, the current resident rate as the base rate, then we will discount that 35% for residents and nonprofits. And Council, are we recommending moving forward with the current non-resident rate?
So that would require the 60 days posting. If we increase that rate, we would have to post it 60 days and then come back.
Okay, so let's stick with the current. Yeah, let's stick with the current.
We can address that later.
Okay, sounds great.
And the business
right.
rate will stay as it is.
Yes.
And we'll tie our future examination of rates to the budget process.
Yes. Okay, I think we're in agreement for that direction.
Thank you.
All right.
Maybe
Thank you,
you could have
Jennifer.
said that an hour ago, just saying.
That'll take us to agenda item 8.2. This is resolution 23-52, and I believe Tina is in the notes that were given to me, Tina is making a presentation?
No, there's no presentation.
No presentation.
Just if you have questions,
discussion. Okay,
we're
perfect.
happy to answer them.
All right, so council, you have in front of you the summary of the Senior Advisory Committee, and I'd like to find out if you have questions, comments, or any feedback. Councilmember Marsh?
Yes, the senior. The Age-Friendly Committee met yesterday and marked up the proposed resolution 23-52, and there's a copy of that in front of each of you. They decided to adopt the name Senior Advisory Council as opposed to Senior Advisory Committee, and they crossed off in section 5B that they can meet monthly at the Maricopa Senior Center during operational hours because they meet at 4 o'clock, which is after the senior center's closed for the day, and they need to meet at 4 because some of the members work, and they can't meet at 6 because that's after sundown in the winter, and they can't drive at night. So there.
So there.
Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, The city code only has boards, committees, and commissions. There's no definition for council.
I was going to ask you
in the
if-
city
yep.
code other than the city council, which would be you guys. So I don't think we have another organization called a council. I think our code is very specific on committees, commissions, and boards.
Okay, then we'll go with committee.
So Bob, just a quick question. So if the senior center's closed, then we'd have to have staff there. Why wouldn't we just not meet in the same room that they're meeting in all the time at 4 o'clock, which is here at City Hall?
Right.
Wouldn't that be easier?
That's what he's asking.
that's
So
why
you're asking to
that's why
stay
we're-
here?
Yeah, we're
Okay, I thought it was
Right.
the other way around. Okay.
Right.
I'm okay with
And
that.
if we want to have it open to the public, more open to the public, we could move it into this room.
Okay. What additional comments, questions do we have?
Okay.
Yes, Councilmember Gettle?
Thank you, Mayor. If I could just ask a clarifying question on that same comment that Councilmember Marsh is bringing up, Section 5B. I read it as more of an outreach opportunity, not necessarily their monthly official committee meetings. They're there to solicit input and to act as a public forum for issues that affect seniors in the city. The SAC can meet monthly at the Maricopa Senior Center during operational hours with an invitation for all seniors to attend these meetings. I took that more as an outreach opportunity to hear more voices, not necessarily to hold a business meeting for that council, or that committee, excuse me.
Oh, that was intended to be their monthly meeting.
I agree.
Is that
Based on the
intended?
conversations we had, it was the intention that it would be their monthly meeting.
Okay. I think that outreach is a wonderful opportunity.
I think it's a great idea, yeah.
If the meetings are even held at a different location, but maybe semi-monthly or bi-monthly, we could hold something there for more public to be able to attend, that'd be great.
I think that would be great, except for the fact that you do have members that aren't available during normal work hours for that entity, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Wade?
I just wanted to get some clarification on Dennis's point. Are you suggesting that it not be changed to council, or they don't have the ability to do that?
Yes. Madam Mayor, Councilmember Wade, I'm not sure we could all of a sudden start defining something council. I think it's confusing when it's not defined in our city code. I think we'd have to first go back, but then the only council we have is the city council. So I think we're very specific on everything else is boards, committees, and commissions. So I think if we're going to now start calling this group a council, I think we first need to go back and change it in our city code, but I think it could create a lot of confusion for people, and I'm not sure I understand the purpose why a committee isn't sufficient.
I don't know why either. I'm just curious as to whether you're making a recommendation to not change it, since they made a recommendation to change
Right,
it.
that's his recommendation.
Okay, that is, okay.
That is his
I wasn't clear that he
recommendation,
made
yes.
that recommendation. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Thank you, Councilmember Wade. Additional comments, questions? So, given that, and you'll have to be specific in your motion as to whether you accept the changes with the possibility of not changing the committee to a council, but you accept the rest of his suggestions, Councilmember Marsh's. So if you are considering that in your motion, please let me know. Who would like to make the motion?
So, yeah, I'll make the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve minus the changing to a committee, and then on 5B, just leave it as solicit input to act as a public forum for issues that affect seniors in the city. Right?
Very good, yes. And I have a second from
I'll second.
Councilmember, I'll give it to Marsh. Okay, Councilmember Marsh. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Very good. That'll take us to item 8.3, and that is Resolution 23-53 on Cultural Affairs and Arts Advisory Committee. Council, what questions, comments, concerns do you have? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Yeah, no questions or concerns. Just a comment. This has been a project near and dear to my heart for a number of months to make sure that we really do empower our committee, our citizen committees a little bit more and utilize the expertise and the resources that they are. So I'm grateful for staff in putting this together here for us, as they've listened very well to some of the recommendations here in the past. So I am very comfortable with the proposed resolution for our Cultural Affairs and Arts Advisory Committee.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Gettle. Any additional comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion? So moved by Councilmember Lehrman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Gettle. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And that'll take us to agenda item 8.4, which is Resolution 23-54 on Parks Recreation Advisory Committee. Council, what questions, comments do you have? There's a battle up here. Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
No questions or concerns, just another comment. Some of our citizens have been asking about why we dropped off the library, and so I do want to make sure that we bring that up again tonight. When this committee was originally formed years ago, we didn't have a library in our city, and so this committee was specifically tasked to help us to build that library and the library system that we currently have today. Our current library is very well supported, not only from the city, but we have several nonprofit groups that also are stepping up to support them, which minimizes the need for the citizen committee to really address that need. So we have recommended that the libraries be taken out of the title and out of their purview, and to change the name there to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. So very comfortable with this resolution again, and again, thank you staff for putting such a resolution together for us.
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. Additional comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, do I have a motion? Motion by Councilmember Wade. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Vidiello. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Very good. That'll take us to our last agenda item, 8.5. This item is Contract 23-08. And we can see if there's any questions, but do you have a few words that you can say about this? Oh, there we go. Josh, thank you. That's where your name came in.
He's been waiting
He's
the
been
whole
waiting all
time.
night.
I've been waiting to call Josh all night.
He wore his tie tonight, so you got to call on him.
Mayor Smith, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I think Ben did a much better job about that topic than I would have, so thank you for letting me speak on this one. So we're going to be talking about this land purchase. We're calling this kind of general area the Maricopa Commerce Park. So this is the area we are discussing. It is 146.8 acres. Purchase price is $7.5 million. Though that is a large purchase price, understand that that is a lot of acreage, and so it's really coming down to $1.18 per square foot. So just as a understanding, much of the land being sold in the city right now is anywhere from that $3 to $15. Again, that's dependent upon location and a couple of things, but so it's a fairly good price for that kind of land. So to give us an understanding, the city already owns about 230 acres adjacent to this. So with this 146 acres, we'll be at about 375 acres altogether that has potential for rail access. And so the benefits of this land and why staff is proposing the approval of this land purchase, yes, as we said, it has the potential for getting some revenue back when we sell this land, but more importantly, it is the asset for our citizens and for the city, and that comes through jobs. This would be targeted for industrial and manufacturing jobs. We regularly get PIFs from GPEC and ACA, so the Greater Phoenix Economics Council and the Arizona Commerce Association. Basically what they are is these are businesses that are looking to relocate, and they are basically sending out, we need potential sites. When we get these, we're really looking for shovel-ready sites, and we'd be able to apply for a lot more of these. And so this gives us that opportunity to create shovel-ready sites that are exciting to businesses that want to come in and bring jobs into our community. One of the things that's particularly exciting about this location is it could be considered what's called as a mega site. So we've recently been working with GPEC, and you may have heard some of this before, Council, that the Phoenix area in many ways is sort of built out, and GPEC is starting to get that from other entities saying, oh, I think Phoenix has kind of got, they've got all their sites, and they're trying diligently. No, there's lots of opportunities, and particularly as we look at the greater Phoenix area, which we of course fall into. And so as we were meeting with some of the GPEC staff, we had an opportunity to highlight some of the land opportunities, both the smaller and larger, that we have in the city, that they were very excited about to start helping us kind of sell that to these companies. But particularly, they are looking for what these mega sites are, which this falls into. So they're looking at over 150 acres that has the ability to have higher uses of water and electricity, which our utility providers can do here, and have the opportunity for rail. So this really opens us up as some of those locations that they're really trying to highlight when they're going out and trying to bring in big businesses. And those big businesses, of course, are coming in with jobs, many of them high-paying jobs, and wanting to invest in our community hundreds of millions of dollars into these sites and into the community. That's a little overview of why we are recommending this site. This greater area, we're kind of in that industrial triangle or commerce park, would be 1,200 acres that we'll be looking and doing a master plan study of. And with that, any questions?
Thank you very much, Josh. Council, any questions, comments, concerns? Yes, Councilmember
Gettle?
Gettle.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor.
He just said Manfredi, and I'm trying to change my.
Manfredi turned
It's
his mic on.
G-O-E-T-T-L.
Yeah.
Easy to say,
hard
to spell. Come on.
There you go, Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Bowman, thank you very much for your presentation here. Could you just explore with me a little bit more about this potential rail access? Because and maybe this is an unfair question, because I know there's a lot of engineering that goes into those spurs and the creation of those. Does this current site, as proposed, give us enough room to connect to the existing rail line?
Potentially. So you can see in this picture, I apologize that it's somewhat small, so there is already a rail spur along that line. It is used currently by the Pinal Feed and the ethanol plant there. Part of that master plan study will be, so, okay, what can we do to bring that in, and does it make sense for the overall? Even just having it next to it and having close rail can be beneficial for some of these companies, and that's kind of what that feasibility says. So that's why if you need to say possibility of, in many of these manufacturers, it is a benefit to have that rail, and this is a good opportunity. It will depend on who comes in and, kind of the cost benefit of bringing that rail in.
Okay, very good. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. Councilmember Wade.
So do you have any data on the number of businesses or entities that may be benefit from having the spur there, and how will it benefit us?
Yeah, so I can't tell you necessarily the exact number, but many of those PIFs that will come in, again, those basically proposals from companies saying what kind of land is available, they do say, is this available as a rail spur or rail access, yes or no? We can come back with that data of how many of those current ones we have.
Council, just to remind you, I think it was the last council meeting, Christian provided a META report of the number of PIFs, and remember his standing line is that it's not an issue of getting requests, it's an issue of having the land and the ability to fulfill them. So we have more than enough requests, and just to elaborate a little bit more on the rail line, we think ultimately a rail line might spur off of this location, so a spur off the spur, giving a backbone through the heart of these properties going back up to the east, because these might need additional spots. And the council knows this, but for the general audience, again, we're partnering with META to do this master study. We are also partnering with other landowners, even though we don't own the land adjacent to this, and it's 1,200 acres altogether. In my opinion, once we complete the study and possibly put in some basic infrastructure, you might remember we told you the price might be worth $3, $4, $5, $6 a square foot. We'd recoup all of our costs to have dollars to invest in other future sites and opportunities. And beyond that, by the time we do that, we know that there'll be interest, as Josh indicated, because there is no land anywhere else. And to have this access in a community with high education and high standards and those things we have, we know this is a critical piece for us moving forward, and the early interest have stated that. So we're proud to partner with META and others to move this project forward. And this was a product out of the general futures planning last year, and we'll bring additional segments to you this coming meeting.
So as a member of the META board, I knew the answer to the question I was asking prior to asking the question, but for the benefit of the public to have a discussion on it, which was accomplished. So thank you very much.
I mean, the acreage could house not hundreds, but thousands of jobs. And the averages are around 70,000 a year, but some of these are in six-figure numbers, but that's just the averages. And I think if you piggyback this against the potential for the U of A project, where we hope they do the innovations and the research and development, and then they can just come down 1.5 miles or 2 miles to where they now build it, assemble it, and ship it out. We're building a bookend of opportunity that is significant. Now, to be clear, this is not going to happen tomorrow. You know, for almost 16, 70 years, the city didn't even think about these things. And then we started putting them together, and frankly, I think we've come pretty far in a short period of time. But again, this is about our future, and the future looks bright when we can book in these opportunities.
Great, thank you.
Very good. Additional comments?
Motion to
Questions?
approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Manfredi,
I can second.
seconded by Councilmember Wade. Any additional conversation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Josh. Now, that brings us to the end of this city council meeting. However, we do need to take a motion to move back into e-session.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Manfredi and seconded
Second by Gettle.
by Ghetto. Any questions? One comment, we do have one discovery question that we'd like to approach in the e-session. So that's the direction, the one discovery question. Yes, thank you. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.